As we saw in the previous stage of our journey to discover the relics of St. Anthony, part of his left forearm was donated to the Republic of Venice by the friars of the Basilica. Now, the Venetians were well aware of their military inferiority with respect of the vast army of the Ottoman Empire and the imposing fleet, and therefore sought the protection of their dear St. Anthony. Part of the forearm, however, remain here in the Basilica. So, let's go to the chapel of the relics. Follow me. We have now the opportunity to see St. Anthony's radius, that is, the part of his left forearm that has remained in Padua. This precious reliquary that contains it was donated by Victor Amadeus II of Savoy in 1672 to thank the saint for healing him from a severe illness. Next to this relic, we have a reliquary which holds the saint's finger. This is a very ancient reliquary in gilded silver, and it portrays, as you can see, the saint holding the relic. Paduans know this relic very well because every year on June the 13th, the saint's feast day, it is carried in procession by the minister provincial of the friars. I've always asked myself, but why in 1263, at the time of closing the coffin after finding the saint's tongue and chin perfectly preserved, St. Bonaventure decided to remove the left forearm from the coffin? Why expose it to the veneration of the faithful if it was only a set of bones? I believe that with this relic, St. Bonaventure wanted to underscore a very important aspect of St. Anthony's personality, his love for the poor. In fact, as a Franciscan friar, Anthony never ceased to extend his hand, or rather his entire arm, to anyone who needed his help. He was always on the side of the downtrodden and the poorest of the poor, women, children, the elderly, prisoners. He fought courageously against usurers, a widespread practice in those days, and even managed to change unjust laws. In short, he was one of humanity's first great defenders of human rights. It need not surprise us, therefore, if immediately after his death, a few charitable initiatives arose around the Basilica to help the poor in St. Anthony's name, thus giving rise to the Bread of the Poor. Pope St. John Paul II has recalled that this initiative has never failed, even in the most difficult years marked by misery and poverty, such as those of the two world wars. In time, it had broadened into today's St. Anthony's Charities, which works effectively on all continents and makes the less fortunate feel the balm of fraternal love. Archaeologists have turned up ample evidence of devotion to relics dating back to the deaths of Peter and Paul. The first Christians, in fact, took great care to preserve the remains of the apostles, and many pilgrims, despite the persecution, flocked to Rome to venerate them. And this happened not only for the remains of the apostles, but also for those of the martyrs. This was in stark contrast with the traditions of the Romans and the Jews, who, like most ancient peoples, considered the bodies of the dead contagious and unclean, or at least not spiritually life-giving. With the end of the persecution, Christians began to build churches precisely over the tombs of the apostles and the martyrs, such as, for example, the Basilica of St. Peter, or of St. Paul's outside the walls, or of St. Lawrence, or St. Agnes. We could call these buildings reliquary churches because they were built over the tombs of the apostles and the martyrs. And so it was that over time it became customary for all Catholic churches to deposit a small relic of a saint within a sealed cavity inside the altar over which Mass was celebrated. In the general instruction of the Roman Missal, we read, "The practice of the deposition of relics of saints under the altar to be dedicated is fittingly retained. However, care should be taken to ensure the authenticity of such relics." So every time you participate in the Holy Mass, remember that under the altar where the Eucharist is celebrated, there is a relic, a memory of a man or a woman who knew, by following the example of Jesus, how to transform his or her own life into a gift. I've now returned to the Chapel of Relics to pray with you in front of these two important relics of our dear St. Anthony, the radius and the finger. Dear St. Anthony, during your earthly pilgrimage, you lived in the midst of difficulties and dangers, yet you were always encouraged and upheld by prayer. Make us more obedient to the teachings of the Lord, more diligent in prayer, and comfort us always with your protection. Amen.